welcome to Mrs. Cford Vlogs. I'm Stephanie Crawford. Thank you for joining me. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about using Legos to do Lego builds. I have talked about this using Lego builds in assessments as a different form of assessment, but recently I just did an activity which was not unusual for our class, where we were reading a book. Halfway through the book, I asked students to get into groups of about 3, and then had them pick out what they thought so far had been a major event in the book that had driven the plot. And after they built it, they had to go onto Flipgrid and explain what their build was, and then also explain the importance or the significance of the event that they were representing. And this, works on a variety of skills. And when I posted this, there were a lot of people asking questions about, do you have resources to share on this? And I was going to pull out a blog post on Lego builds and realized I never really did one talking specifically about how to use the Legos or set them up in your classroom. I just kind of mentioned it as an alternate form of assessment that you might want to do. So if you don't currently use Legos, or you are maybe using them sometimes and wondering if there is a better way to manage the Legos, this might be it for you, or it might not be. But I'm going to show you how I organize the Legos in my classroom and how I set them up for different tasks. So the first thing is that I went to Target and just got containers like this. They were in the dollar spot. And at the beginning of the year, I got 7. And then I asked for Lego donations. So these are they have some of the Legos in them. So there's different colors, and they all have about the same amount of Legos in them. Like I said, I have 7 of them. I won't show you all of them. You don't need to see that. But the point is that I took these Lego donations, and people were really generous. So, a lot of times with Legos, if someone's getting ready to move out of that stage with their own children, they hate, just getting rid of them to someone that they don't know if they're going to be able to use them, or obviously not wanting to throw them away, but they know that they're going into a classroom. They're really happy to donate them. That's been my experience anyway. And I was able to get all the Legos I needed without having to buy any of my own. So that was huge. I divided them up, not with any specific, pattern. I mean, there are all kinds of pieces that are in here, all kinds of colors. I just kind of went through and divided them evenly so that there was about the same amount in each one of them. When we do Lego tasks, my desks are grouped in tables of 4, as you can kind of see in the background there. And I do 1 of these per table. And then each of the groups sits at one of those tables. They have those Legos that are their own, that nobody can touch. But then they also have, and they don't pick those, I just set them out randomly. So whatever they begin with is just luck of the draw. Then I have containers like these that are full of Legos. They're still someone's partial build from our last thing. But they have these that are fair game. So if they go through their own containers and they're missing something that they desperately need, or a color that they really want, there are 2 of these, and then there is a big one that have extra Legos, all kinds of pieces. And it's got pieces like this, okay, which when you look at it, you might wonder, well, what would they ever use that for? Well, we did our last build with the Outsiders and having an important event out of that. One person or one group flipped it over and used it as a fountain to represent when Ponyboy was getting drowned in it. So they filled it with blue Legos to represent water and had someone bent over it. But then another group flipped it up and used it as the dome of a church to represent the church fire, and built something to represent a cross that could go with it, put a flame up there. So their imagination, their creativity is really what's driving this whole thing. They are putting it together on their own, but it's still based on the principles from your class. They're having to represent those ideas. So those are free for all. And then I have this container also, and this has the people in it. So I have, through those donations, there were also people that were given. And, some of them are in there with just the top of their body and their faces and heads. Some of them are whole people. They frequently will go through to try to fit what they need. So for instance, with the Outsiders, they needed some with long hair, and they needed some with short hair to really make it count. So there's a pirate hair in there that has long hair. So groups were trying to find this to take it so that they could accurately represent the groups with the long hair. So even the choice of their Lego people, they try to make it fit that task that they're working for. So if it's someone that is, you know, in a story, if you were story or history, if it was someone that's supposed to be representing like evil, or someone who had done something horrible, then if they can't find a regular person, they might go for, I think there's like a Darth Vader in here, that type of thing. If they need a hero character and they can't find like the hair characteristics that they're looking for, they've gone for Harry Potter before, because there's a Harry Potter Lego figure in here. But my rule with this is that this is where each group starts off by getting one figure, then go and get the first figure of their choice, so that way they're not all picked over. And then after I have given time, I say, all right, go get your next figure. And that's when it's kind of that free-for-all. They can get what they need then from here. That is when, if you are trying Legos and you're building your collection, minifigures to me is the one thing you can never have enough of. And you know, if you see those somewhere like at a thrift store, pick them up, because you will never have too many of those Lego figures. When you set them out, you want to give clear directions on that task at hand. So, and it's also not something you want to continue over into the next day, because if you have multiple sections like I do, they would have to keep those Legos that they used apart from the others, and now you suddenly need way more Legos to accomplish it with multiple sections. So it really needs to be something that you have them finish in one class period, if you're going to do it with multiple sections. So you give them a time limit. I always say normally between 20 and 25 minutes, or 25 and 30 minutes are what it seems to take for my kids to really put thought into their build, to get it the way they wanted. They really work well together with that. And 25 to 30 minutes is a good time period in there. Then they take the rest of that class. My class periods are only 43 minutes long, so they take the rest of that class period to figure out their presentation, to film it, to make sure that they've got all of their information represented. In my class, because it's gamified, it is worth house points to the winner. So they know, like, they could have a fantastic build, and if they don't answer the question that they were supposed to answer also, it's not going to matter, they're not going to win. So those elements are all things that you can build in. I put my question on a Google slide, and I put that up on the board. We go over it, and then after I make sure there are no questions, the time begins. And I always say you have the rest of the class period to work. Everything has to be accomplished before we leave class. So you really just set it up as a work day, but they're still working on whatever you want them to. So it could be any essential question you want answered about a text. It could be comparing and contrasting figures in, you know, history, or in your informational text, or in your literature. Really, there's a lot of times that you can use that. And it can cross contents. You really just have to say, this is what I want the build to represent, and let them go at it. Okay, so I'm going to show you pictures of the builds that they've done. You've seen is that those students, they worked again in about 25 minutes to build that together, and paid super attention to detail. So again, these are just some from my latest one with the Outsiders, but for the scene in the park with the fountain, they had you know, someone drowning another, they had a person with a knife, they had the park represented through building a swing, they had trees. There are students that have built, you know, basketball hoops for that. They really focus on those little details, because they know that could put them above another group when it comes to, did I actually represent this? Did I get all the important stuff? This group had, you know, the blue Mustang, and then the church fire also fully represented, you know, beam falling on one of the characters, another one ready to jump in, someone jumping out, the fire around. So they do pay attention to those details. They get it done in that short amount of time, and then their videos make sure that they can communicate to you what they're learning. I hope that you'll give it a try. Now you know how to set it up better. We're coming into summer. It's a perfect time for you to look for donations for Legos so you don't have to buy them on your own. I guarantee you it will provide an engaging class for your students and for you. You will love seeing what they do. We use this multiple times throughout the year. You just can't go wrong with it. So if you try it, let me know how it goes, please. I would love to hear back from you. If you have questions about it, please let me know that too. And if you already use it and have some great stories or pictures you want to share, I'd love to hear that. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you next time on Mrs. Cford Vlogs.